Can you keep up with the pace of market regulatory reform? MarketsReformWiki.com, the place to keep up.
What traits do you look for in an emerging CTA?
I consider the universe of CTAs to be my toolbox, so obviously if one of these emerging guys has come up with something new and interesting, it's something that I clearly don't have. I believe in pedigrees. I like to know that you started out as a clerk and then you started executing paper for a CTA and then you learned to trade and now you've got your own store. I believe in that cycle. I also look for the emerging CTA's ability to describe, number one, the source of returns, or what inefficiency they're exploiting, but also the persistence of it. I have to understand the basics of what he's doing before we start talking about the neural networks and artificial intelligence he uses to exploit the conditions that he's discovered.
How do you approach disclosure documents and performance stats?
A disclosure document is pretty rigidly defined what needs to be in there. And in the disclosure document, there's a worst drawdown listed. And let's just say it's 20% for the month of August 2012. A smarter follow-up question when presented with that knowledge is, well, how bad did it get during August? Did you finish on the lowest part? Is 20 the worst it ever got? Or did you drop 40 and climb 20% out of the absolute valley? That's important information that no one is required to provide according to NFA guidelines, but it's useful.
The Sharpe Ratio is a key indicator for CTAs. How do you read them?
The experience I had was I went to a number of different databases describing the product that I was working for, and I had a different Sharpe Ratio at each of the different databases, and I had to figure out why. Who's right? Well, they're all right. The reason they varied is because the time frame that they used may have been different. The risk-free rate of return that they used may have been different. Those are the two largest variables. So the way I deal with that now is if I'm going to compare trader A to trader B, I try to confirm that the Sharpe Ratio I'm using to compare that with comes from the same methodology and the way I tend to achieve that is simply, if I'm going to compare trader X and trader Y, always pull it from the same source. It may be a database of CTAs, or I might calculate it myself.
How do you mitigate the negatives of trend following?
Complementing trend followers with non-correlated product is how I deal with their limitations. First, I consider purely organically in my head what should work. If we have a technical trend follower trading the typical basket of 50 or 55 markets with this time frame, I have certain expectations. If I then consider a grain trader who relies exclusively on discretion and fundamental data, there's a number of areas there where, again, organically, I expect them to behave in slightly different manners. My assumption is then that independent behavior will smooth out returns or enhance risk-adjusted returns in any event.
How has the emerging manager landscape evolved?
I see a lot of newer products coming out with a strong reliance on fundamental data. Discretion's not a bad word. The result is that there's a lot of non-correlated product coming out. One of the other interesting facets of that process is that there's a lot of product coming out that isn't swinging for the fences from an asset under management standpoint. In years past, everybody said they had 500 million, they had $1 billion of capacity. Now I'm meeting guys who are emerging products who says, I'm gonna have to soft close at 25 million and I'll probably hard close at 40, which I find very, very refreshing.